Yeah. What's going on, everybody? This is Dr. Chris Featherstone here with a special guest, a friend of mine who's been on here a few times as a guest. Now he's a co-host with me today. He is none other than former WWE announcer Hugo Savinovich. How are you, my man?
I'm here having a great time, and thank you for being so passionate with wrestling. I love to check you out. I saw you last week, I believe, with our vice president of Lucha Libre Online, Michael Morales, and our good friend Bill Apter. And you guys, you guys know what you're doing there.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Always a pleasure, man. Speaking of Lucha Libre Online, let the listeners know, man, y'all are doing some awesome work over there.
Thank you very much. Royal Rumble, for instance, we had like a record setting. We had our 3 reporters invited by Triple H and WWE, and during the Royal Rumble, the 2 days, I believe, we did like 56 interviews.
Wow.
This is like unheard of. And of course, you know that we always put up with the product, and we're not doing what we do to make anybody look bad. We are passionate about it, and Triple H knows that we are good for their business too, and we reach an audience that perhaps they don't follow them too much, and we're making them see what's going on with WWE, especially right now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic, man. And you are you're the president of LLO, and Michael's the VP.
No, I'm like the guy that works for them.
Yes,
I'm one of the partners, but it's Javier Gonzalez is the president. Michael is our lawyer and vice president. It's always good to have a good lawyer as your vice president, especially in our industry. And he's really good, federal specialty of cases. So it's always good. And you have him as a guest that he knows what he's talking about. And we have a bunch of good, talented reporters, photographers, the guys that do the edit, the designers. One point, I think even Tony Khan said, "Man, your graphics are better than mine." We have good, talented people. We have really good people.
Yes, fantastic. Presentation is key, man. If you're having some, if you have good graphics and good presentation, man, that goes a long way. So that's fantastic. So
Yes, our audience. It doesn't matter if you're Japanese, Spanish, American, aficionado. One thing about our people, our wrestling aficionados, is they don't like to see anything that it's not done, almost perfect.
yeah,
Our crowd demands excellence, and they will
yeah,
not settle for less, because this is not like a season sports event. This is, the whole year. It's
hmm
365, 24/7, and our people expect to see the best in
yeah,
in their lucha, their wrestling.
yeah, absolutely. Fantastic, man. Where can they find you on the interwebs as far as all that jazz is Twitter and all that stuff as far as Lucha Libre
Yeah.
online?
Instagram, Lucha Libre online, Facebook, Lucha Libre online, our YouTube channel, always with the Lucha Libre online, and that's it. LuchaLibreOnline.com, whatever you want to go, it's there. And we are 24/7. Sometimes at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm sitting down giving them the latest storyline. So by the time other people are covering at 8 o'clock, I already have it on at 4, and there's always somebody, a guy from Spain, or somebody from Mexico, or somebody from Puerto Rico, or somebody from the States. Somebody's always reporting something in Lucha Libre Online, and we love the wrestling, and we're not against anyone. We want the small guys to succeed
Yeah,
as much as the big leagues, and for us, everybody wins, because I have friends or people that I am their pastor in every company. So
love
to
it.
me, I love for everybody to be successful, because all of those guys and girls, they have their own dreams and their own families, and how much of sacrifice for their bodies.
Right.
This business it's tough.
Mhm.
It's the glamour that people think it's not. When you have to travel and be at the airport at 4 o'clock in the morning, or a radio interview at 6, and then get 2 hours of gym workout, and then put a good show at nighttime, and then sometimes you leave from the arena, quick bite to eat, and then to the airport, and take that 3 o'clock, or the last flight out of whatever city you're in. It's tough. So we try to be there to help them, whatever they have that we could help them with, their merchandise. We're always there. We're always
Yeah,
there for them.
yeah. For those, there's some people in the comments thinking that we're ending the show. No, we're just getting started, ladies and gentlemen. We're just getting started. So a lot of times, people when they're interviewing people as hosts, they tack on the plugging at the end of the show. But no, I want to plug your stuff at the beginning of the show, man, because people need to know about LLO in the beginning and the end of the show. So that's that's great. Fantastic, man. And I really commend you for what you just said. You said that a lot of people have their stuff out at 8 o'clock in the morning, but you get up at 4 a.m. and be sure that you are ahead of the curve. And that's, I was before I became more of a pundit and a commentator and a podcaster, I was grinding just like you are, man. And I writing for Sports Illustrated, Fox Sports, and I wrote for Sportskeeda for a while and a bunch of other pro wrestling sites. And I was really, really big on it. And me and Reju and I, we still have this conversation now, man, because I'll break news, I'll get stuff from inside WWE, and I'll give it to them and stuff like that, and I'm like, man, we got to get it out, because
Yeah.
because of that. From a journalist standpoint, it's like we got to get this stuff out before everybody else does, and we have to be right there, ready to rock and roll, be ahead of the curve, so we can have that first story broke, and for everyone to go after it subsequently. So it's the grind and the hustle and bustle when it comes to journalism. It's a thrilling thing, man. Once you really commit yourself into it, it's very thrilling. So
Yeah, and if we get news from Sportskeeda, we give it credit. If it's a picture with the story, or if it's me giving the news, we always give credit to the source. And we just Lucha Libre Online, we just don't get stuff from just anybody because they're there on their page.
Right.
It has to be reliable sources, and we're very passionate. So it's, to me, it's like when Michael said, "Hey, they want you to be a guest," I said yes, because I have fun working with people that I know respect the industry, and they love what they do, and it shows because there's a lot of people that make money out of our sport. That's what they do. They just make money. They don't care if they hurt it or not, as long as they make the money. It's nothing wrong with making the money as long as you do a great job, and you don't have to be an aficionado, but at least respect it. That's my only thing. Respect the news, and don't be putting out there 80% of your stuff. It's not reliable source, and then they don't even, some of them don't even go back and say, "Hey, we were wrong." They just let it go.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
That is terrible. That is.
I 100% agree with that, man.
Yes,
100% agree with that. Yeah. So that's a great segue. So for someone who is a reporter for Lucha Libre Online, and what are some heavy stories going on in the world of professional wrestling that are some of the biggest stories on the site that we can discuss today?
Yes, well, the scandal of Vince McMahon, John Laurinaitis, the name of Brock Lesnar mentioned and then disappearing. It's been very hurtful for people. Think it's just a WWE thing, and I believe that it's wrong. That it affects all of us.
Sure.
Because just because it has the logo of Vince and WWE, it's part of what we do. And fortunately, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, came in, and their way of doing things. I always tell fans that sometimes things happen that we don't plan, and we did that match in Toronto. Carlos Cabrera and I were doing the Spanish. Jim Ross and the King were doing English. Sky Dome, and it looked easy. Hollywood Hulk Hogan was going to be the heel. Of course, The Rock the babyface. In less than 1 minute, the fans made Hulk the babyface, and then in less than 40 seconds, he just lifted the eyebrow, and boom, we had the heel Rock. And who knew that was going to happen on this time? And The Rock, even though he is so hot, one of the top stars in the history of the WWF, WWE era, and of course Hollywood, and he is risking it all, because people say, "Oh man, but he's getting 30 million." Yes, it's good money, but remember, he has money.
Right.
He just did the deal of the two football leagues together, XFL, USFL, and then he owns property of producing products. He's a big brand, and for him to, when he appeared on that SmackDown in the middle of this whole mess, it meant to me how much from his grandfather, High Chief Peter, might be Rocky Johnson, and him, and all the big Samoan family, the real bloodline story line. It's that they're real. He has the money, but he was willing to come in and put his name there. And in the middle of this crisis, this Pandora box that opened, not too many people are talking about that. The stocks, there were predictions from the experts that it was going to come down to $70. I haven't checked today, but it hasn't reached that point. And that is the Rock factor, the Cody Rhodes factor, and in a way, CM Punk, the operations, Charlotte getting operated. It just made the people realize how dangerous our sports is, but also how somebody is so passionate like The Rock that is willing to turn heel. I mean, and not just turn heel. He went out of his way with the whole thing that he did, talking about the people, and I don't know if people are familiar with that, but you don't really talk about that, especially right in Utah at the Coliseum. You don't do that. That is like a no. You don't talk. And he used the word inbred and all that and this and that. And of course, we know he's playing the most successful character of his whole acting career. Doing this showcase of The Rock, that is the biggest film. The only thing is, here you don't have a director to do that part 10, 20 times. This is, you do it, it's live, and you only got one shot. And that's what The Rock is doing. and it has like, I mean, even from small countries that don't follow lucha or wrestling, they call me and they said, you know, can you talk to us about what is this? Because they don't understand why The Rock has to come back to a place where it's right now into a lot of controversy and perhaps a federal investigation and all of that. And you know, so to me, that is the biggest story. The biggest story is, of course, the dream match was supposed to be Bloodline, who's the real head of the table, The Rock and Roman, and perhaps at one point that will happen. But right now, it's Bloodline together, how to stop Cody. And I think because of how much people got into Cody and the sentimental part and all of that, I think that nobody can rule in the heart of a fan. And the fans, you know, that's what they want. And they made The Rock Rocky again. And we have like a brand new story leading us to, of course, more stories down the line.
Sure. Yeah, you know, I've went to X or Twitter about my thoughts on modern day WWE fans. I'm very critical toward many of them, but I do want to give a lot of credit to The Rock. And you can tell that, yes, he's, you know, he's really in and out, very, very sparse appearances. But, and I said this before on my other shows, one thing I like and respect the heck about The Rock is that he gets legit goosebumps every time he comes out. And that's a shoot. I mean, he does a close up to his goosebumps because he really still enjoys the business, and I appreciate that for someone who does not need the WWE whatsoever, still coming in and paying it forward. I can respect that, and I can respect the fact that he's willing to improvise. I'm still not sold. Like I think the jury's still out on what the actual match is going to be at WrestleMania, however that comes about. But I think that The Rock Roman was, you know, was originally the matchup. I don't think that necessarily is off the table. And that's an interesting thing. I think that it's still not necessarily off the table, but I think that The Rock is willing to do whatever it takes and willing to call those audibles and recalibrate to get to the end goal. So if the next few weeks, if it's willing for him to heal up real high, he understands the business enough for him to be this mega heel, because a lot of times the biggest baby faces were once the biggest heels.
Yes.
And that's that pendulum effect. The more you heal it up and get that and arouse that crowd in a negative way, the more that they love you when you swing the other way. You know what I mean? And so I think that the Rock knows that. He's a student of the game, and he's working the crowd, because I do think at the end of all this, fans will be cheering The Rock at WrestleMania.
Yeah. And I know right now it's the villain that the character that he's doing that they need it. They needed the Hollywood Rock. They needed like the NWO Hulk Hogan. They needed that because right now fans want to forget about the Pandora's box that has opened, and they just want to concentrate on give me a good storyline. And I just believe that from here to WrestleMania, they as crazy as it sounds, they might be going with a tag team the first night. You know, Bloodline together against Seth and Cody, and I think where the angle can happen is the second night for the title of Cody, almost completing that, and the Usos or whatever trying to stop it, and it looking like that's going to happen with The Rock giving his cousin the victory over Cody, but for him to turn on Roman and have this Hollywood ending with Cody, and then you still have that dream match of Bloodline. Who's the head of the table? You know, having The Rock and Roman. But I think that it is so hot right now that whatever you do with Dwayne, with The Rock, you always have to remember that in reality, he is like the law. He is one of the directors at TKO, not just of WWE, but of TKO, which is the world of UFC and the world of WWE. And I think that's why we had the mixture on UFC of the fighter challenging in Raw, you know, the bad boy of UFC.
Yeah, Conor McGregor, yeah.
Yes. So to me, I think because of they belong to the same company. Now I would not be surprised to have the UFC cage as one of the attractions on the night, on the first night, on the night wherever they put the tag team match of if they do the Cody and Steph against Bloodline. I think that could be a night for the UFC cage of the Bible because it belongs to the same company and it will not lose credibility because it will be inside the cage. And the only thing is they cannot have it in UFC because of the violation of steroids, that there's no way that Conor will pass any test. I don't care how many companies you change that do the testing. He's not going to pass it. And there is money to be made. So regardless if it happens in UFC or in WWE, guess what? TKO is going to be making the money, and I believe that the impossibility has been taken out. It's just what TKO and the top owner wants, and that's what's going to happen. And I think we have a good possibility of having 2 nights of incredible storyline, and which right now TKO needs it because you don't want to lose money with your stocks, and you want to create more money. And I think that UFC fans, they love this bad boy. I mean, Conor McGregor is that villain that you love to hate, but at the same time, you know, he's like an idol. You know, I mean, how many guys could get away with throwing chairs to a bus? I mean, without being a WWE storyline. So to me, it's like, you know, it's like life imitating any storyline from WWE or even in the crazy world that we live today. It was like watching one of those videos on the internet that you say, wow, what happened here? So,
you know, I think that's really good. I think it's really smart business. I really do think it's really smart business. Now, for those, I see there's a lot of comments in the side chat. Thank you very much. If you want it on the screen, go ahead and go ahead and include a super chat with it, and we will put it on the screen and answer any questions that we have here. Now, I do think it's very, very smart business when it comes to the UFC sanctions and things like that. You know, there's a lot more restrictions when it comes to testing and stuff like that. But at the same time, like you said, there's lesser sanctions when it comes to WWE as far as states are concerned because WWE is considered sports entertainment. So
we had the case with Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, that's true.
Brock couldn't get that big fight with UFC because of that situation. And you know how long you need to wait for you to get another testing. It's not like I missed today and in 2 weeks you're gonna get it. So to me, it's like that is the world. If it can happen in a world of sports entertainment, it would be WWE because it's just a whole different way of measuring it.
Absolutely, because when you're dealing with like true combat sports, you have to deal. I mean, of course, you know that, but for the listener, you have to deal with like state commissions and things like that, and that's one of the biggest reasons why Vince McMahon shifted over from pro wrestling to sports entertainment, not only to get that wider, you know, type of branding, but he had to deal with a lot of states, you know, that had a lot of restrictions when it comes to pro wrestling. And so a lot of state commissions were like, no, we can't have this. We got to have this. And there's a lot of restrictions and there's a lot of guidelines that you have to follow. But when it's a sports entertainment, when it's built as sports entertainment, there's a lot less restrictions that you have to go with. And so to your point, Hugo, this thing wouldn't necessarily, I mean, this isn't like, this doesn't have to fall under all the combat sports requirements and guidelines and restrictions. This is a sports entertainment showcase of two UFC people calling each other out on a sports entertainment platform, so the ability to do that would be more accessible than an actual UFC fight.
And we know that it's viable because we have seen NFL players in the past being involved in WWE storylines, even battle royals and all of that, because they accept the fact that they're sports players or that they belong to the teams. The owners will not mind because they like to see those headlines of NFL players. Absolutely. And of course, that WWE or any company that knows what the heck they're doing, they treat them as guests. And when you're a good host, you got to make your guest look good. So to me, they're like superheroes invited to the entertainment world of WWE, and they love it because the majority of them, they like to see what they do, the boys and the girls of wrestling do, and to see themselves right there. I mean, I remember Floyd Mayweather. Mm-hmm. Floyd Mayweather remember that Big Show thing they did? I mean, Mayweather went out of his way.
Him in the nose. He legit broke his nose, right?
Yeah. Yes. And he was like, wow. And no, Big Show was no complaint. It was like good for the business. Mm-hmm. So Mayweather actually learned more from being around these guys that are good in the mic, because that's what's made him money. Mm-hmm. The mic, the villain, the guy with the money and all of that, and doing the angle with the Big Show. I saw him like on camera and off camera. And when he was off camera, he was like one of the boys. Mm. He loved the fact that he could do this with people that he has grown, like from the kid. And now he was becoming one of the superheroes. And it was like a David and Goliath storyline. And boom, he put people from his company to do publicity. I mean, that's out of his own budget, not what WWE or Vince had made the deal with him, but he loved it. He put his trucks and all of that because he was really committed. And I believe that a lot of the UFC fighters, they love doing stuff with our people, who like with wrestlers, WWE, because they grew up loving this superhero, good guys and villains, and now they have an opportunity of doing that. And of course, they know that WWE is also like a big business, especially now with the TKO brand. And whatever you do now, it's not just WWE or UFC. You're doing TKO, and they are giants. And I believe that they are not going to stop there. I believe that they're going to try. I think they already did, and they couldn't buy another sports league or something. But I think they did try already. I can't remember what they did. But I think TKO will not stop with this. I think they will expand. Mm-hmm. I think that if they thought Vince was crazy with trying to do the XFL, I think that Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, is one of the directors, because I believe that the vision of TKO is like huge. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they're going to even create their own sport or whatever they're going to do, but I know it's big for Dwayne, for The Rock to be there, because this is a very bright, like they even say it, branding is a specialty. Because how many guys could get paid millions of dollars for a movie, and then the same company has to pay him $2 million for him to promote it on his media. Yeah, that is brilliant. And I think that we haven't stopped imagining what TKO. They just gotta pray that this Vince things get settled, so they could concentrate on whatever they're going. And whatever they're going, I think it's going to really shock the world, because I don't think they're going to stop with just UFC and WWE. I think that they're going for something perhaps even bigger than UFC and WWE, because the way that you just see them, the way they're evolving, and now putting Dwayne there, I think movies, I think that another sport, I think shows, I think I just think that we don't even have an idea of how big TKO wants to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned Vince McMahon, and one of the biggest buzzing topics out right now is not only the Vince McMahon with Janelle Grant, there's stories resurfacing of Ashley Mazzaro. Unfortunately, she's no longer with us, and more stories resurfacing as far as what happened overseas with the military troops event. Now, you were there during the time that Ashley Mazzaro was there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, did you?
Lovely person.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Did you pick up any just mood changes or just her overall demeanor while she was there with WWE? Now, a lot of stuff is public now. Her best friend has been on News Nation as far as just saying situations regarding when they did do the tribute to troops. Now, not that story's been out for quite a while now, as far as just allegations of her being sexually assaulted during the overseas event, the tribute the troops event. And so it's public information as far as what her best friend is saying. This has been out for a while now, years, but her best friend is kind of putting more meat on there as far as putting more layers to that story, explaining what Ashley told her, what happened, some details. Now, fill us in on what you're aware of when it comes to that story and just how Ashley was backstage. And if you did notice any type of mood changes or demeanors while she was there based on that timeline.
Yeah, before this part of this horrible episode or Pandora's box, whatever you want to call it, happened. There was an interview with somebody that I really like, and he's very honest, Paul London. I've done my own international shows, and this guy is so passionate about the business. I'm always scared to have him on because he is like a daredevil. I mean, I'm always afraid of what he's gonna do because he's gonna hurt himself. It's crazy, but he's such a human being. And when he said this is only like the tip of the iceberg, wow! And because I knew that he was very close to Ashley, I said, oh my goodness. And I reported in Lucha Libre Online, and I said, wow, this is very serious. And then of course, then we had the one of the best friends from Ashley talk, and whatever happened, we were like, in my case, I did play by play, but also helped produce and most of the new markets at the time, Korea and all of that. I was in charge. They made the business to sell the shows, and then I was introduced to their main TV producer and the play-by-play guys, if it was Russians or Koreans or whatever. And it was my duty to train the producer and listen to the play-by-play guys and make him not to do an American WWE show, but to make the right calls, to make it like their show. Their show, to make it work on their. And I spent a lot of hours at the studio, a lot of hours. And when you spend a lot of hours at the studio, you get to hear things that you want to hear and things that you don't want to hear.
Yeah.
And I don't recall, and I talked to her more than just a few times, and I did not see that much difference. But in my case, like I could tell you, I only opened up in my own case in my book, Atangana, Ring of Temptations, Ring de Tentaciones. That was the first time that I told my story that I was raped in Ecuador, my country, when I was 7, I was 8. So it took me years to come out because in our business, if you dare to speak about being raped or stuff like that, or if you have, like in my case, after my wife died, it's been like a little bit over 4 years. My older sister died like 4 days after. It shook my world. So I know what it is to suffer. I know what it is to be so depressed that you have to function, and it is so hard. Yet you don't want to sometimes because they say, no, that's going to make you look weak. Or in my case, they even told me, they might not hire you because if they know you're going through depression and anxiety and all of that. And I think that, remember, this is not happening right now where more talent has been opening up about personal crisis and all of that. So I don't know if at the time she was trying to be strong and not to tell that part of the story. But what it's amazing is that this didn't happen in any place. This happened, according to that, in Kuwait and on a military base. And if that is the case, we're talking about not just a secret between Vince McMahon and Ashley or two people. This is the military forces of the #1 powerful nation in the world that says, "In God we trust."
Yes.
And if that was the case, how horrible it was and it is if that happened, that somebody went to the grave, and perhaps a lot of it had to do with not being able to have peace on that. And that's why when sometimes when I risked taking Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy, I had the Hardys against the Young Bucks way before they created that in AEW. And they said, "Why are you doing that?" I said, "Well, in order for Jeff to recover, he's got to get treatment, but he cannot be locked up in the house because those demons that, as a pastor, I could tell you that you have to, of course, I believe in praying, but I also believe that you have to keep active, do productive stuff so you just don't survive. You live again." And I think that this whole situation, it is so horrible because if it's told like it happened, you say, well, how can a human being do this to another person?
Yeah.
And how could the most powerful nation in the world let this happen? Because this happened on a military base in Kuwait. So there, the law, it's the military, and WWE are the guests. So in that world, like we do right now, like the Tribute to the Troops, I've been doing that for years now with AAA, and when we do it, like I just did one of their big ones, and they do it on a military base, and no guests from outside are allowed. Only the soldiers and their families, and they got to go through so much security. And from the dressing rooms, there is, like, on the female dressing room, there are 2 female soldiers right outside, and no guys. Even like Conan, that is the head creative or whatever, they got to call the girls out into where the gorilla position is, where everybody's there. Like there's a female producer, our director it's a woman too, and they're there. So in the military base that we do our shows, there is even more protection. And like the men's bathroom, when you go to the men's bathroom, there's like 5 different security zones that you gotta go, and there's like 2 soldiers inside the bathroom. They're not like watching what you do, but they're out there. They will turn their backs. But so I don't know how this could have happened on a military base, because remember, when this was happening, I believe even in one of them, they were being shot.
Yep.
Remember that they were filming it and they were being shot at the same time. So it's horrendous. If it happened like it's been said, it happened. It's horrible from the military point to WWE. It should have never happened, and even more sad that this could have been a top reason why she couldn't take it, and she committed suicide. But of course, we know that it doesn't take to be raped to get to this point, because we know the Japanese young star in Japan that she was bullied on the internet and she couldn't take it. And I don't want nobody to say, "Oh, because they're women." No, I mean, it's horrible. I've been doing this for over 51 years. And sometimes people could be so cruel, and you got to understand that when you're in this business, you got to learn to deal with that. But if what happened to Ashley was that, you could imagine that if it's 24 hours a day in our human clock in this adventure that we go through in Earth, it's already rough. You could imagine what she was fighting with, because I could raise my hand and tell you that even being a pastor and man of prayer, and it's been rough dealing with my situation, and I had to come out and say it in my book. And now, especially when I preach on to the youth, and or when I do ones for leadership, where there's like the big bosses of companies, I come out and I say, because you have the, that was before this thing happened. I always say to them, because you have the power to rule in your company, it doesn't mean you have the power to destroy people. And I say the leader would always select the best in every way, and that includes yourself. So I'm like I said, I worked for Vince for 17 years. And my first year, I worked out of one of his mansions in Connecticut. And I spent, when you work for Vince Creative, and I worked at a time where the group was just Pat Patterson, Bruce Pritchard, Brother Love, and myself. And then later came Jerry Briscoe. And assistants were Stephanie and Shane, because they were not like the big people that became later on. They were assistants to us. And Vince had a rule that, we could not treat them like they were his children. They had to obey and do it right. So I saw what I saw. And I have told people that at the plane, I saw 36,000 feet. I saw in this private plane, Vince opened up the bottle of Jack Daniels, and we all drank from that. That was way before I became a pastor. And we all drank, and I got to see Brock Lesnar and Vince going at it, wrestling in the plane. I mean, this is like the millionaire boss, drinking Jack Daniels with all of us. And I saw him wrestle him 34,000 feet in midair against Brock Lesnar. And they were not, this was like, the amateur shoot wrestling. And I saw that. I saw Kurt Angle. I mean, I saw crazy stuff, but nothing that was at that level. I saw like the beginning of the relationship that no one knew between Stone Cold and, what's the name of Deborah, when nobody knew. I knew the story with H and Lita before it exploded. The Triple H and Stephanie when nobody knew that, and of course you keep your mouth shut. But that was like something of a romantic situation that perhaps the Lita and H was like forbidden because he was married and all that. But I worked with Vince for a whole year and a half, working out of his mansion and traveling with him. And I never saw that. And people say, oh, you're covering him. No, first of all, I'm a pastor. And second, I haven't worked for them in, over 8 years or 9 years. And I don't have to cover for no one. I just tell you that what I saw. And I saw this man giving me a second opportunity after I went to jail. I became a drug addict, alcoholic, and, had 2 overdoses and all that. And he gave me an opportunity again. And I recall one, and perhaps you have never heard this, and I will tell you right now, we were working on a storyline for Stone Cold, and Vince will not take phone calls. And this phone call he took, one of his assistants came in, and he took, so I said, man, it must be Linda or, something big, an executive because he was like, when it was creative time, there was no interruptions. And he stood up and took the phone call. Then he came back, sat down, and he said, it was Ernie, the big cat lad. And he took his phone call. And then he looked at Pat, Bruce, and myself, and remember that at this time, I have not accepted Christ. I was no pastor. I was doing drugs and everything. And he said to us, and Ernie said that Jesus loves me. And he would always take the phone call from Ernie. There was never like, no, tell him I'm busy. And so I learned in a lot of ways that a lot of the stuff they said, no, the race card and all of that. I said, well, I'm Spanish. I wasn't even Mexican or Puerto Rican. I'm Ecuadorian. So, I was not even on that ranking. And I saw this man do a lot of great things. So to me, all this stuff right now that it's happening, I said, wow, this is not what I saw. And I was there 17 years. And I spent a lot of time. I was not just the Spanish announcer. No, I was producer. I was creative, and I spent a lot of hours and worked around a lot of employees, female and male, and did not hear any of that. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm saying that I became an American citizen, and the law says that you are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. And I said that that's what I believe in, and I still believe that. And trust me, for me to stand by that, it takes a lot, because they did a case for me that I could have done 8 years in jail because I did not turn witness to the guy that was selling me drugs. That was a big guy in Connecticut, and I said no. I was stupid enough to get in this trouble. I am not going to be with this and have somebody kill my sons or my wife or my mother. Yeah. And the evidence they took out, it was so wrong, because I was doing a pay-per-view out of all places in Winnipeg, the land of Jericho and Omega. So far, no mountains, just like a straight road all the way there. And the second case they had me was on a night that I was doing a pay-per-view. What was the Lakers house at the Staples Center. So I know what it is to be in a situation where they said I did something, and I say, hey, I was a drug addict, I was an alcoholic, but I never had to sell drugs because I made good money. But it almost happened to me. I had like 3 situations hanging around with the wrong crowd, which is always bad, that I could have done 10, 12 years. So I always give credit to people. And I always said, if you live in the United States, the law says you're innocent until proven guilty. I have a friend in Mexico that he's one of the guys from the new generation. He's in jail. He had a incident with his girlfriend, Stephanie Baker or something like that, Chilean girl, and she put him in jail, accused him of hitting her and threatened her life. And there is different. You are guilty till proven innocent, and no bond. He's been no criminal record. He's been in jail for over 11 months, and you cannot. They're fighting now to get him out. But regardless of what happens in his case, he's been in jail already for close to a year. Yeah. Until he gets his day in court. In other countries, you don't get your day in court in 1 month or 2 months. In a lot of places, you stay there with criminals and everybody else until you have your day court. So this thing is horrible, and I don't know how this is gonna pan out, because I believe, I was just telling our Lucha Libre Online person Javier Gonzalez tonight that I was gonna be on Sportskeeda, and I said, it is as crazy as it sounds. I just feel like there's going to be more stories, because there's so much money to be made that a lot of people are going to take advantage, and that nothing really happened to them, and they're going to be joining this case to see if they could get compensations of millions of dollars, because a lot of times it hurts a company more, the scandal, that if you're innocent or you're guilty. So this is horrible. As much as you want to say this or that, it's not good for wrestling. Of course, it's not good for WWE. But it is so sad that a man so brilliant, like Vince McMahon, that created from the original product, made it, part of TKO, sold it for more money than UFC was bought. And for him to end, for his legacy to be this cruel white man that took advantage of people that worked under him. If that is the case, how horrible. Yeah. It is not just for him, but imagine his grandkids. Imagine Linda, Stephanie, Shane, all the people that are working for him right now, from the male wrestlers to female wrestlers to makeup artists, directors, the ring crew, everybody. And then we have to talk also about the companies that do business with them. I mean, at some point, if this gets out of hand, that's why I'm saying right now, The Rock is saving WWE, because going into WrestleMania, this could have been the worst time ever, the worst WrestleMania ever. And don't forget that Philadelphia, Boston, and New York, they're like the toughest clientele in our business.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're WWE or NFL or NBA. Or now I also got to put hockey in there. Those are tough crowds, and then the Subway Series, my Mets, and the Yankees. I mean, these are the best fans, and also the most rough fans, and that's where WrestleMania is happening.
Yeah.
Two nights. Try to stop 2 nights of signs.
Especially in Philly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, we got to roll in 90 seconds or less. We do have the. I do want to respect the super chat. So thank you, Kenny 699. All right, in 90 seconds or less, Hugo, answer this question. Hugo the man. Why always the special Spanish announcers table exploded and not the other one with Jerry Lawler and Jim Ross? Favorite memory with them?
Oh my God! It was. We were like that show on Comedy Central. We were like the Kenny of WWF.
Yeah, South Park.
And South Park. If the show was about to end,
yeah,
and the people would start screaming, "The Spanish table!" They just loved it. It was that happening to Carlos and Hugo. The Spanish table was like the seal of a good night in wrestling.
Good stuff, man. All right. Once again, let the listeners know where to find you before we head out, man. It's been a pleasure to get your insight today.
Yes, and please respond to our girl. I love Brick House, Camille.
Okay.
She's gonna do something big on her YouTube channel tomorrow. She said about what WWE, AEW, or where she's gonna end up. Whoever gets her will get a great wrestler. I love her. To do the shows with her, it's always been exciting, and I just feel bad that you have to fight to have great talent in a company. That hurts me. And they could find me in Lucha Libre Online, and of course, I do a lot of preaching. I do a lot of conferences. I am real. I'm the crazy blonde guy with all the cuts that just turned 65, but I still feel like I could do it. And it's just so sad that Sting is going to have his retirement match. And Flair asked us, Carlos Cabrera and me, to do the Spanish, and Sting will have his last match with the worst Spanish play-by-play in history. AEW Spanish, it's even worse than WWE, and right now, that is saying a lot, because WWE, it's horrible. Their Spanish. Carlos Cabrera was fired, and there's nobody right now with knowledge of wrestling and passion of wrestling. And unfortunately, in the American part of the business, they just think that if you are an ex-wrestler or you did something in radio in Spanish, that's enough. And you know that when there is a good wrestling aficionado, they know when you're faking it, when you don't know anything. And, it's just bad. I'm doing play-by-play now for the video game wars they do. I'm doing one. And I know that I could do the play-by-play. But right next to me, during the night, I have like 4 analysts that each are experts in each variation of the game, because I respect it. So to me, it's not a check. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to have somebody that really knows what they're talking about, those video games, because that's another world. So that's what I do. Find me Lucha Libre Online, and always a pleasure to do anything with Sportskeeda, because you guys keep it real, and there's always quality, and there's passion to whatever story you guys cover. We could take it to the bank.
Very nice, man. This guy right here is Hugo Savinovich. I am Dr. Chris. This is UnSKripted. Have a good night, everybody. So long.